All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started. My name is Marcus Cook. I'm Principal Marketing Representative for the Capital Corridor. Just want to thank you for joining our second session of our annual business plan workshops. For this workshop, we are covering years 2021 to 22 and 2022 to 23. During our session, you're going to hear from Capital Corridor staff about our plans and priorities for the next fiscal year. In addition to an overview of our plan itself, this is your opportunity as an attendee to ask questions and to provide feedback. If you haven't already reviewed our business plan, it's in the chat section of Zoom right now, so feel free to click on that link and you can download our current business plan. Before we get started, I do want to go over a few housekeeping items. So we'll just go to the next slide here. And just so you know, our next and final session will be tomorrow, Friday, March 19th at 12 p.m. We are also going to be recording these sessions, and so a recorded version will be available online within the next few days. This is a recorded session. Cameras for participants are going to be off, and all participants will be muted for this session. Most importantly, we do invite you to ask questions. We want you to use the Q&A section of the chat of Zoom. So avoid chat for your questions or comments, just use Q&A. The reason for this is we want to document all of the questions and comments that we get from our participants as they do become part of our business plan in the future stages. And so we will try to address all of our questions that we get this evening. Anything that we aren't able to address will be followed up later on. And feel free to, again, use that Q&A feature. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to our Managing Director, Robert Padgett.
Thanks, Marcus. Rob Padgett here. I am the Managing Director for Capital Corridor, and I'm here with Marcus and a few other members of my team, including Leo Sanchez, our Deputy Managing Director, Shirley Chen on our planning team, and Camille Tsao, also on our planning team, who's our lead on the Link 21 project. So super happy to have this whole team with us today. We wish we could be with you on the train. We hope to see you next year on the train where we normally have our workshops. We all consider these workshops as a phenomenal opportunity to engage with our customers, to hear from you. We will walk the trains, although we want to give you lots of distance in the next few months. But if you see us on the trains, please stop us and give us feedback, or take advantage of the many opportunities to give us feedback electronically. We really do want to hear from you. It has been a crazy year for all of us, I know. And kudos to my team, and thanks for everyone's support this year as we've made a lot of tough decisions to manage, but I think we're in a good place. So with that, I just want to talk a little bit about the business plan process. Normally we do this a little bit earlier in the year. We're still kind of managing our way through the current fiscal year, and so we did delay the business planning a little bit over our normal year. We will be taking this draft to our board at the April meeting for approval. So we are holding workshops this week, and then we're asking you to give us comments by the 26th. And we do provide our board with summary of all these comments and responses to those comments. Again, this is a great opportunity to give us feedback on even the most minute issue. Don't hesitate to reach out to us. If you could go to the next slide, please, Marcus. So we'll keep it brief because we want to give you a chance to ask us questions, but these are the topic areas that we're going to cover today. I would encourage you to take a look at our business plan. We are really active doing lots of things. Despite the pandemic, we're moving forward on a longer term effort to continue to grow our service. We know that a lot of the changes going on today with some of the relocations out of the Bay Area into places like Davis and Sacramento and Roseville is continuing. And those are a lot of our customers. A lot of our customers are folks who ride the train a few times a week. And we expect that our ridership will come back very quickly post-pandemic. And so we're actively taking advantage of the opportunity with a little bit less ridership to take advantage of that and try to move some stuff ahead. So you'll read that in our business plan. I encourage you to read through these topics as listed here. We will have our team members just go through this briefly and then take questions at the back end. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Leo.
Thanks, Rob. So for this first slide, I want to take a moment to highlight last year's performance. The period that I'm covering is from October 1st, 2019 through September 30th, 2020. Overall ridership by the close of that year was 898,000, which is roughly 49% down versus the prior year, and really how it generally goes every year is usually we end up around 1.7, close to 1.8 million riders per year. On-time performance finished up at 88%, which is 2 points below our target plan of 90%. Delays per 10,000 miles were 429. And just to wrap up this slide, I do want to say that we aren't planning any fare increases for this next year. So we are going to be holding fares flat with no plan increase at this time. Next slide. All right, so we've now been running a reduced service since March 20th of last year, which is now almost exactly a year ago today. And we're currently running, for those of you that are running with us or are not currently riding with us, we're running 16 weekday trains and 10 weekend trains. We're working hard to restore our service, and we're looking for a service increase this summer, hopefully, that will take us up to 24 weekday and up to 24 weekday and 16 weekend trains by the end of this year, and with a planned full service restoration in 2022. So lastly, before I jump from this slide, I do want to state that we are planning a schedule change March 29th, which is next Friday. And just a couple of highlights to highlight the schedule a bit. It is a pulse schedule for those of you that are unfamiliar with that term. Basically, it's a schedule that's going to be departing hourly, so arriving and departing mostly hourly, every hour on the hour. And it is going to be connecting the Auburn to San Jose region directly with now a train every day that goes back and forth. This is a change for us. Traditionally, the only time we did this before was on the weekends. So we are excited for that connection, and just so that we highlight a couple of the other things is that it is supposed to enhance some of our connections with BART at Richmond. So look forward to seeing that and the change, and you can see the current planned schedule change on our website. Thank you. So for safety and security, the main things that I want to highlight is that we are going to be maintaining health and safety standards and procedures in place that were put in during the pandemic. We're going to continue enhanced cleaning procedures that are in place. We're going to be looking for additional technology that can help keep our riders safe while they ride with us. And we are looking for a phased reinstatement of our cafe service. So when we do reactivate some of our service, our plan is to at the same time be looking to add in some of the cafe service. For those of you that are watching closely on our tiers, you may be seeing that we're starting to make some progress in the overall state in the region that we operate. So we're looking at that closely. One of the main things that we were following was the state guidelines on indoor dining. So we were treating the cafe service similar to that, and we wanted to encourage as many riders to ride with us and not be put off by having people without their masks on while they were eating. So that that drove that decision. We are going to be continuing the federal mask mandate, and we look forward to having you all return to our service, and hopefully we'll be continuing to do more in terms of keeping you all safe while you're riding with us. Next slide. So we are going to be continuing to have an active program on our RightofWay in order to reduce incidents and decrease delays along our right-of-way. We are actively focused on ensuring that we address safety issues along the right-of-way, and we want to make sure that we keep both the public and our riders safe when they ride with us. Next slide. So lastly, on rolling stock equipment improvements, some of you may have been following along that we have been piloting renewable diesel on one of our locomotives. It's specifically unit 2103. We are looking to complete that pilot this year, hopefully by the spring. It's actually going to be starting to ride on the San Joaquin side in the next few weeks. And as soon as that's completed, we're going to be looking to do a full transition by the end of next year, 2022. On the rolling stock front, we're excited for our partners over at San Joaquin are in the process of acquiring new equipment, and that will give us the flexibility to use some of that additional equipment that will free up in order for us to be able to restore our full service, and we'll be able to not rely on leased equipment from Amtrak. I'm also excited to share that we are going to be getting 2 new locomotives, and that will be replacing 2 older F59s. So the goal there is to run a cleaner fleet, and those are Tier 4 locomotives, which are the latest and greatest in terms of clean burning technology. And then lastly, we are going to be continuing to replace door panels, and that is in an effort to mitigate door delays that we often have seen. And so we're excited to be doing that this year. That's all that I have, and I'll transition it over to Shirley.
Hello, my name is Shirley Chen. I'm a senior planner at Capital Corridor, and I am covering service amenities for you today. So service amenities are the things that you feel, that you use, that affect your ride experience. So some of the things that you may notice are at the stations, there are signs that tell you when the train is coming, when the next train is coming, and important messages like delays and informational messages like cafe service. So that is part of our passenger information display system, or PIDS. And that current system that's in use right now is it was installed in the early 2000s, and so the technology is pretty old. So we are working on a modernization project to revamp the backside of it so that the software is updated, that the databases that we're using are updated and using current programming codes. We're not right now thinking of replacing the signs that are out there. They still have a few years left in them, but we are going to plan for those when those reach their end of life. So we are working on the back end modernization right now, and that effort will continue through FY 2022. The second service amenity that I want to cover is the very exciting California Integrated Travel Program, or CalITP. And this is we're supporting the state in researching and implementing seamless trip planning and payment system across multiple modes of transportation. And for rail, for passenger rail especially, it's a really exciting opportunity to explore different fare structures that allow people to more easily pay for our train tickets, as well as use just the ease of using maybe something as easy as a credit card to jump on the train and pay for your trip. So as some of you may have heard that the Monterey Salinas Transit is currently implementing a pilot program to test out this concept. So it's a slow rollout for sure, but there's a lot of exciting things coming, including some fare structure changes in the potential future. So look out for those. And then the third service amenity that we want to cover is the Wi-Fi upgrade. I'm sure many of you use the onboard Wi-Fi while you're on train, and the Wi-Fi system actually got an upgrade over the last year that provides a stronger and more reliable signal. So when you're back on the train, you should notice an improvement in performance while you load bigger documents and perhaps some streaming services. And we also have a new Wi-Fi landing page that has new features like Audible and news stories and things like that. So be sure to check that out once you're back on board. And then lastly, I want to cover bicycle access. With the reduced pandemic affected ridership, we're not seeing as much demand for bicycle parking on board. However, once our ridership picks back up, we are continuing to increase the capacity of onboard storage with our angled bicycle racks on the trains. And we continue to provide bike parking, secure bike parking at the stations, in the form of BikeLink electronic bicycle lockers. And in fact, at the Caltrain stations in Santa Clara and San Jose, they actually installed some new ones. So the capacity for bike storage in South Bay is dramatically increased due to Caltrain's efforts. So that is all great news for when ridership picks back up later. Next. All right, and next we want to talk about service expansions. And these are the longer term projects that really affect how the service is run and our frequency. The first project that I want to cover is the SAC Roseville Third Track Phase 1 project. And of course, this is the project to increase our Sacramento to Roseville service from 1 to 3 round trips daily. This project is currently, we're working closely with Union Pacific on the engineering and design aspects, and we are actively seeking construction funding for this project. If successful, the third track Phase 1 project is estimated to complete around 2025, with operations starting soon after. The second project is the South Bay Connect project, and this is the rerouting of our Capital Corridor service train from Oakland to about Newark, from the existing route to a new route on the Coast subdivision that would reduce travel time up to 13 minutes. It would reduce train congestion in East Bay, separate passenger and freight trains, and improving operations for both uses of the rail. Really what's exciting about the rerouting is that it opens up the opportunity for us to have a new station in the Ardenwood Park and Ride area, which is on the border between Fremont and Newark. This is a active park and ride that serves many Transbay buses and shuttles. And this will allow our passengers to connect from the train to those Transbay transit services and reach destinations on the SF Peninsula, such as tech campuses, as well as places like the Stanford campus. So this is very exciting for us. We are currently in the environmental analysis phase and preliminary engineering. If this project goes through its current schedule, it is expected to reach completion around 2026, 2027. And then lastly, the very, very big Link 21 program, and we actually have the project manager for that project with us, Camille. Would you like to tell us about it?
Sure. Hi, everybody. I'm Camille Tao. I'm the program lead for Link 21 for Capital Corridor. And for those of you who haven't heard about this, it used to be referred to as the second Transbay crossing. But what some people might not know is that it's not just about having another crossing for BART. We're talking about a transformational project that could have regional rail services such as ours across the bay, which is huge for the mega region. Currently, folks that are going to San Francisco from our services either have to transfer in Emeryville onto a bus or in Richmond onto a BART train. But with this project, you could stay on the train or possibly with another transfer go directly into the city. So this is truly a transformational program for our mega region. We're partnered with BART to lead the planning effort, but we're really working with a lot of other partners. This project is in the state rail plan, so we're working with the state. We're working with other operators such as ACE and Caltrain and other regional agencies. So, this could open up the possibility of service from the peninsula crossing over the bay into the East Bay as well. So there's a lot of possibilities. So if you haven't visited our site, we have a website for the program, which is link21program.org. I encourage you to visit it and read more about the program, get involved. We will be doing more outreach throughout the year to get ideas. We're just in the beginning stages, but we'd love to hear from you. So thanks.
And before we go over to the next section, which is going to be one of our last topics for the evening, we do have a question regarding service expansion, specifically to Gilroy. If either Shirley or perhaps Camille can address what that might look like for Capital Corridor.
Sure. We don't actively have any plans to expand service to Gilroy. That route is currently served by Caltrain. So any Capital Corridor riders who do wish to reach Gilroy can easily connect to Caltrain at either the Santa Clara University station or the San Jose station.
Great, thanks, Shirley. And before, again, we go to the next topic, I do want to encourage you to put those questions in the Q&A section. We do have one other question that we will address, and I'll get that out live to the group. But I do want to just encourage you to use this time to provide us with your feedback and comments. Also, we do have some information, some resources in the chat feature of Zoom. So this is us just providing you with some additional points of reference for you that will help in digesting some of what we're talking about today. So let's get over to marketing. This is my area. And, I think for Capital Corridor over the past year, our business has looked a little differently, especially in the space of marketing and communications. Due to some of the local and state guidelines around COVID, we really have had to augment how we communicate and even the messages that we are putting out to our passengers that you're normally used to seeing, such as our promotions and things like that. We really have been following along the lines of the different tiers and the travel restrictions that kind of go along with them as you progress. Throughout the year, we have put out a lot of travel safely messaging, health and safety messaging, just to make sure for those who had to travel or wanted to take advantage of some travel experience, they were able to do so in a safe way. You'll see us do more of that, throughout the year, because I think that that's something that's important, just to continue to make people feel safe as they're riding the train. And in addition to that, as we start to move to kind of this travel encourage stage, I think what you'll start to see are some destination kind of marketing that we may put out there, specifically around outdoor activities, some leisure activities that may be available. Obviously, when we look at the different counties, they are responsible for some of the restrictions as far as what you can engage in indoor or outdoor experiences, but we will at least start putting out some more of those messaging in some of the time to come. Our goal for our ridership is to recover back to our pre-pandemic levels. However, we know that there are some variables that have taken place that really are going to impact the Northern California region. I think what we've witnessed is a lot of people moving around the Bay Area and even beyond, for just kind of a change of scenery, or they just want some more outdoor space. And we recognize that our riders may not be in the same place once things kind of turn back on, so to speak. We also understand that, with some businesses, they've relocated out of the area or plan to relocate out of the area. That may impact some of our ridership. And then, of course, employers have allowed for employees to work remotely. They've been extending those dates as far as when they are planning on having employees come back into the office, if they plan on having them come back at all. So with that, we are going to be doing some market research to help us best determine how to reach our existing riders and even some new markets that we might be able to tap into, some new riders to find us. And so really this is all about trying to understand how to connect with them and educate them about our service. the other thing that we had to think about, kind of during the pandemic itself, was just how we needed to adjust some of our services or our fare products specifically to really fall in better alignment with the needs of our passengers. I remember reading an article over this past summer that really challenged businesses to kind of change some of the things that they were doing just because of COVID and how people were being impacted. And so one of the things I thought about was our 10 ride pass. Back in the prior to our change, the 10 ride pass had to be completed within 45 days. And so we talked about it as a team, and we thought about, okay, if we could extend that out to 60 days, that would allow people a greater amount of time to be able to travel. So that way they still feel that they had some value in the tickets that they were purchasing. We also have some bright spots, kind of some things to look forward to. Just a little over a month ago, we launched our CC Rewards program. We have a link towards that, but essentially it's a rewards program for our riders and people within the Capital Corridor community to join our free program. And essentially what this does is it gives you access to discounts and offers from sustainable businesses along our route. We also have our own exclusive offers just for our CC Reward members. And we anticipate being able to, grow those offers out over time, just as we kind of get into this travel encouraged or a little bit more less constricted phase in travel. We are also going to be celebrating our 30th anniversary. This December is going to be that milestone year for us. And, we are working on some creative specifically to highlight the 30th anniversary and to be able to celebrate with our passengers, because so much of what we do is because of you. And so we want to just continue to thank you for that. And then of course, Shirley and Camille touched on those really critical projects that are happening along our route, and we want to keep you informed. So if you haven't already signed up for our CC Rail Mail, which is the best way to keep on top of all of our updates, we encourage you to do so. You can do so right on our website and essentially receive information either via text or email about all of our projects and just other activities that we'll be doing all throughout the year. So we definitely want to see you on that list and, keep you engaged with our service, whether you're able to ride or not. Lastly, Rob, did you want to touch on how people can comment, for the business plan?
Yeah, you can see all the ways that you can provide comments here, and we're asking for comments by the 26th. And again, I'd encourage you to submit a comment. We provide these in summary to our board when we submit the draft business plan for approval. And it is the way we get great ideas from our customers. We have a lot of great feedback, and we value it. So I'd encourage you to use one of these means to reach out to us. And then Mark, I can go ahead and take the next question on the list.
Okay, thank you.
There's a question on here about the new schedule between Roseville and Sacramento, and a concern about the convenience of it. And just for the benefit of the group, I want to describe it so that everyone understands what we changed. So historically, we have one train a day between Auburn and Sacramento, and that is what we have rights to run on the UP territory. We are actively working on an expansion of that service to 3 round trips a day between Roseville and Sacramento for that section. And that will give us more flexibility in our schedule long-term, at least to Roseville. And so we have an agreement with UP on how to do that, what improvements we need to make. We're working on the final design for that. And we will make that happen. But in the short term, we are changing that service between Auburn down to Sacramento to an earlier train. So right now that train runs approximately 6:30, and it'll start about 5:45. The difference in that is that train will now go all the way to San Jose. So historically it has stopped in Oakland, and anyone who wants to go south of Oakland would have to transfer in Oakland and wait, for an hour or so to go to another train. And so that will allow that continuous trip. The other thing that does is if a person is traveling to places south of Sacramento, say to Martinez, we have a lot of people that travel to Martinez, to the East Bay, getting off at Richmond, transferring to BART to go into the city, or going down to Santa Clara, they can do that in a single day. The previous schedule made that day quite short, so this really is given a little bit more in terms of travel options for those who are traveling down to the Bay Area, to Martinez, or to Santa Clara. We realize this is an inconvenience for those who are using our service to commute into Sacramento. It does make for a long day for those going to Sacramento. What I will tell you is that and I've talked to a couple of people directly about this, is there are some other options. So if you're getting on in Auburn or in Rockland, there are commuter buses run by Placer County Transportation Authority at those two stations. So if you want to do this, you could take the train one direction, take the Placer County service on another leg of your trip. The other option is we also run what's called Amtrak through bus service. You can also take that to any of the stations. You can take that to Roseville, to Rockland, to Auburn, and also that Placer County commuter service stops at the Taylor Road Park and Ride in Roseville. So if you're headed to Sacramento, there are other transit options. But again, we do have that through bus connecting service. My hope is that for some of you, that will mitigate some of the concerns about the schedule change. But understand, we always make decisions with the intent to serve as many of our customers as possible. Unfortunately, we do have limits in our ability to operate trains with Union Pacific, who owns the right of way. But we always are watching our numbers. We will continue to watch our numbers with this schedule change. And we hope that overall for our customers that this is a positive change in the future. And then I think there's another question on, I'll let you handle this one, Marcus, to read that out.
Great, thanks, Rob. So Camille, this one will be for you. Will Link 21 for the Capitol Corridor service be kept separate from a second BART Bay crossing in order to allow each service to be constructed whenever funding is available?
So that is definitely something that we need to study. We don't know the answer to that yet. There are definitely benefits to having two separate tunnels, two separate crossings, so that we can more directly connect to our existing systems, meaning, BART and regional rail. But we don't know the answer yet. So we're just in the beginning of developing concepts. And that is one thing that we will need to consider, whether both systems travel in one consolidated facility or if they have separate ones.
Great, thank you, Camille. I do have one other comment, not so much a question, but it kind of refers back to an earlier question. And, again, we do invite you to add any additional comment or feedback in the Q&A section. And Shirley, you touched on Gilroy, before, but the comment really is that a one-seat ride to Gilroy from the North Bay would be much better for the rider compared to the transfer required from Amtrak, which is typically often late. Do you have any other context that you can just provide there?
Yeah, sure. I totally understand. A one-seat ride is much better than a ride that requires a transfer. But the challenge with operating passenger rail on someone else's territory, which is UP, is that we do have limits on how many trains we can run on one day. And so the territory between San Jose and Gilroy, that is UP territory again, and between Santa Clara and San Jose, that is Caltrain territory, and they have long-term plans to dramatically increase their frequency. So we're kind of stuck in this world where Caltrain is wanting to run a lot of trains, and there may be very limited options for Capitol Corridor to increase frequency without significant infrastructure improvements. While south of San Jose, there's that thought of even high-speed rail. So all of these add complications. I know there have been some discussions of the potential expansion of service between San Jose to Salinas, as part of Capital Corridor, and that project is, in fact, is now leaning toward a Caltrain service extension to Salinas. So all of these are things that we have to consider when we plan for these rail expansion and extension projects. I hope that offers a little bit more context to why it's not as easy to just plan for these projects.
And I'd like to add one more thing to that comment too, Shirley. One of the things that the state of California has outlined in the state rail plan is this idea that the various rail services do a better job of integrating their schedules and doing things that make it easier for individuals to transfer from one service to another. So I agree, a one-seat ride is always better, but we do want to make the services easier in terms of transfer so that you can make that trip. One of the other benefits of this schedule changes, we're dealing with some issues with some kind of built-in conflicts in our single track territory south of Oakland that have caused some more than routine delays to some specific trains. And so the tweaks that we're doing with our schedule are also intended to increase our on-time performance. The better we can do with on-time performance, the more we can kind of time our connections at key stations like San Jose, the easier it will be for all of you to take services around the state without having to get in your car. And so that's our ultimate goal.
Thanks, Rob. And we do have another question, this one being about the work that we're doing in Roseville. So can you give a description, or excuse me, a more detailed description of the current status of the Roseville track extension? Where exactly are you in the process, and what is the current estimate of when the expansion will open?
I can take a stab at that. Right now, we are in final engineering design in coordination with Union Pacific. So there's a lot of details that need to be worked out because it is Union Pacific right-of-way. So we're working on that, and I believe we're at 25% design right now. As I mentioned before, we're actively seeking construction funding for this project. We're not fully funded through construction, but if we're thinking of different federal and state and local funding to seek, and maybe Rob can speak to a little bit of that, where we're heading. But if everything works out on the funding side and the engineering design side, the estimate for when the additional service would start is around 2025.
Yeah, that's right. There's and to say, when you hear 25%, it sounds like you're not very far along, but actually that's a pretty significant phase in a project. And when you're getting to what we call the 30% design, which is our next big milestone, you're already talking construction staging. So you're out there with Union Pacific talking about how it gets built, what the stages are, how you keep freight traffic moving during construction. And then in terms of funding resources, this is the kind of project that should be very competitive for federal dollars. There has been an expansion of discretionary grant programs for rail services that has really just happened over the past several years. And we think this project should be quite competitive for those programs. And so we're intending this year to go for those funding sources and expect or hope that we'll be successful in that. So we're quite optimistic about this project being executed.
And Rob, I have a follow-up. I think that might be
Sure.
helpful for those to hear as well. While we wait for others to pose more questions. When it comes to the community up there that is really interested in seeing these frequencies, what can they do to advocate? What can they do to help Capital Corridor be able to connect with those funds? Whether it's at the state or federal level.
Well, for federal projects in particular, what helps is you can pop a note to your congressman and let them know that you support the project and that you support Capital Corridor. Because what we will do when we submit our grant application to FRA is we will ask for letters of support from our Congress folks who are up there. McClintock and Matsui. And so, and others along the corridor, because really this benefits the entirety of the corridor. And my understanding is that does help the competitiveness of projects when they're submitted. We have a great relationship with the Placer County Transportation Authority. They are very active in expanding the overall transportation system in Placer County, and certainly let them know you support the project. I think they're already advocating in lots of different venues for this project.
Great, thank you. And again, just to give a little bit more time in case there's, any other probing questions or comments out there, we've always carried so many, sports fans to sporting events, leisure events. Leo, I'm curious, when are our fans going to be able to get back out there and connect with games? Are they going to be able to do that? I know that for baseball, they've talked about 25% capacity at stadiums. Is that something that we will be able to support?
Yeah, so far from what we've been seeing, it does look like during the summer months, it's likely that the baseball season is going to be resuming for one, and from everything we've been seeing on the media, and so it is likely that we do have some options that we currently have that could be able to support that for the weekends. And we are looking to see about expanding our service, and I think some of those options that we would be looking to do would also be a good options to be able to make it out to the ball game. So currently, from what I understand, it looks like several of those kind of midday games would be able to be trains that we would be able to serve.
And riding to our Coliseum Stadium is the best kept secret in getting to the game.
Oh,
so
absolutely.
Definitely take advantage of it.
Absolutely.
And it looks like we do have another question that just came in. Is there a plan for a new game day station at the proposed new stadium at the Howard Terminal in Oakland?
The closest, there would not be a new station at that location. The closest station, which is, I think, actually closer than any of the BART stations, would be that Oakland Jack London station, which is just a short walk from the proposed new stadium.
Great, thanks, Rob. It doesn't look like we have any other questions. Just a reminder again for those who maybe aren't ready to comment right now, if you do want to comment offline, you can do so by visiting capitalcorridor.org/business plan. There is a comment form right on there, so that way you can, provide your comment right then and there. Or if you want to write us, you can do so. We have our address there. And then finally, you can call in and leave us a voicemail. We do have another question that's just come in. Is it correct that you're planning to eliminate those extra paper tickets for transfers? So this is for the transit transfers. Leo, or would you like to address that? Okay.
So we are currently, we do currently have an active plan to do contactless ticket transfers. So we should have that fully implemented by the springtime. So I believe we're just waiting on one agency, and as soon as that happens, then we should be able to fully do that along our corridor.
Great, thank you. And Hans, I will just call you out. He did say thank you so much for the presentation and the great information. He really enjoyed it today. Thank you, everyone who has participated. Again, we really do value the feedback that you offer to us. It does go into helping us create the best plan, the best service that we can for all of our passengers throughout the mega region of Northern California. And we'll just give it 30 more seconds, because I always like to make sure that everyone's heard. But again, that deadline, if you are going to comment offline, we have to get that by March 26th. It doesn't mean that we won't ever hear anything from you again or accept your feedback, but to be able to really get worked into our business plan, it's really critical. And
a question in the chat.
Okay. Let's see, let me hop over to chat. What's the plan for improved security at Coliseum Station? The station is only a block from BART, but isolated and can feel uncomfortable.
I can comment briefly on it, and then I can pass it on to Rob. So we do have a current active presence with Amtrak Police Department. We actually had a recent cleanup at the at several of our stations. Coliseum was probably the most recent one that we did. But we also look to see what are some of the stations that we're seeing some increased crime, and we try to make sure that we have a presence there that we can call on. So it is an ongoing effort. We do have APD that we can rely on, which is the Amtrak Police Department. But it is an ongoing effort that we do look at regularly, and we rely on some of the data and feedback that we get from comments. So Rob, did you
Yeah,
want
and we partner with all of, so up and down our, and maybe I'll broaden the question a little bit too, in terms of security at stations. So we have a partnership with all of our local communities up and down the corridor. And in the case of Coliseum, like all of our stations, the parking facility itself is maintained by the local community. And so we do engage with the city of Oakland and let them know about any issues in the parking facility. And then we also maintain the platform at that location. We can't really change the reality that it is in a little bit of an isolated location, but we do make efforts, and we had some issues there with some break-ins, and we did actually have some success working with the local police department. There was a repeat offender there that they were able to handle and deal with some of the car break-ins. But unfortunately, at stations that does happen, and we continue to work in partnership with our local communities to try to minimize that to the degree we can.
Great. Thanks, Rob. Thanks, Leo.
So now we'll give it our last chance for, and I just want to say I really appreciate all the questions, and I know everybody's zoomed out these days, and so we're happy that you could spend a little time with us tonight, and we hope that if you're not writing right now, that you'll be back on soon.
Great. Thanks so much, everyone, for participating. If you do want to join us again, maybe you just had to leave a little early. Our last session will be tomorrow. That's March 19th at 12 p.m. So we are doing one a little earlier in the day, just in case that works better with your schedule. But again, use any of these channels to be able to review the business plan, but also provide us feedback. And we just need that by March 26th is what we're asking. Thank you again to all of our panelists, and have a great evening.
Marcus? Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.